Today, we're going to have a debate on euthanasia. The group with a position again is made of Salvador Iron, Villanueva Tapia, ERASMO Gael Dominguez Hurtado, and Alex Arias Orozco. Okay, and the team is in favor is made of Carlos ARATH YADO MENDEZ, Miguel Ángel GODINEZ MORENO, and Julio Sergio Carreño Sánchez. So I'm going to put the first 10 minutes of the team against. So let's get started. Should euthanasia be illegal? Please, Alex, it's your turn.
Thank you, partner Iron. My first argument is that in May of 2018, the Portuguese parliament voted against euthanasia. Even the communists voted against it. Euthanasia was also rejected in the Finnish parliament in the summer of 2018. The World Medical Association reiterated in 2019 that it's unethical and should be condemned by the medical profession.
Okay, so it's my turn, my first argument. I think that euthanasia shall not be legal because even you have the permission of patients, it kills. It's obvious, but it's the right thing to do. In reality, the euthanasia is a type of homicide or suicide. So do you think that killing someone as a legal system, can it be the solution to a human problem? I don't think so. Okay, and now it's the turn of our friend Erasmo. Please, Erasmo.
Well, my argument is with legal euthanasia is the state say that there are lives that can be limited and that we killing each other they help us all. Legal euthanasia tells society that there are lives that are worth less those of those who can be euthanized, that there are lives in general that are worthless. Furthermore, keeping them alive costs money and effort and attention. If they are euthanasia, they will save costs for the state and the families. Their deaths are better for everyone. We want you to understand this the right to the immediately becomes the duty to the. There is no type of euthanasia law that can avoid this duty. There is no control that avoids it except the total provision of the practice.
So let's move to the argument that my colleague Alex has prepared for us. Alex, please.
Yes, thank you. May ask to die of pain and loneliness, but that is fixed with palliative care, not killing. In New Zealand, the Medical Association, the Palliative Care Physicians Association, and the Palliative Care Nurse Association have all come put against euthanasia. The World's Medical Association said in 2018 that it's unethical and should be condemned by the medical profession. That illegal euthanasia is difficult or impossible to control.
Okay. All right, it's my turn about my second argument. Asking for death doesn't always mean wanting to die. It's known that in reality, a very few patients say they want to die, and even less when they are properly cared for and accompanied. For them, asking for death almost always means not wanting to live in such difficult conditions. So asking for death because you suffer is really a free choice. Instead, palliative restores the patient's freedom at the end of life by managing both pain and mental suffering. Okay, now is the time of my partner Erasmo. It's time to consider your second argument, Erasmo.
Well, euthanasia harms the medical profession. Well, doctors and people who will decide to dedicate their lives to caring for a ailing and a companion, or at least it was like that before legal euthanasia. With euthanasia legalized, will we continue to call the sinister art of killing patients or helping them commit suicide, doctors, or medicine? What will the new doctors think of themselves? How many will think that they not only have the technical ability to kill, but also the ability to decide, suggest, promote, encourage, lead the persons towards euthanasia? Who many will do so if they receive premiums from insurance companies or health companies that are always looking for more efficient management, saving costs?
Okay, very good. So let's continue with your last argument, my friend Alex.
Thank you, Aaron. Frequently, the sick and more so those with advanced illness or who are in a terminal situation can go through states of depression for a certain time. If at this time they request that they end their lives, they will have done so in conditions in which they are not mentally healthy. So their autonomy is questionable. That's it. Thank you.
Sorry, it's my last argument turn. The euthanasia is not a sensible way to deal with the tribulations of the life, of which a poor death is only one of the less horrible possibilities. Um, Suicide generally provokes a negative emotional response in people, even if they can grasp the motive behind it. That response doesn't prove that it's wrong, but it's an important signal of a moral problem. As for tradition, the doctor is being asked by patient to go against the deep historical convictions of his discipline, to use his or her skills to take life rather than to preserve it, and to lend to the practice of euthanasia the blessing of the medical profession. Okay, I understand all of this. To be opening the door to new forms of killing in our society is not a good development. And for this reason, the euthanasia shall not be legal. Okay, finally, we will close our round with the argument of my friend Erasmo. Please, Erasmo. Finally, we will close our round with the argument of my friend Erasmo. Erasmo, please is your turn.
Well, in a society without local euthanasia, where suicide is in a sometimes difficult, almost unthinkable, everything waits the person to be on a life and overcome its difficulties. But when euthanasia is legalized, when the option of killing honestly is opened, which is an easy way out. Many people who, with perseverance and courage, would have died a natural death, setting an example to their peers, will rather be tempted to kill themselves, as they do others around him.
Okay, it's the turn of our companions in favor.
Thank you, Iron. It's our turn. The main arguments in favor of euthanasia are related to the right to a dignified life and death, based on the patient's autonomy, his or her right not to suffer, and ultimately to demand euthanasia as a pious act or to dispose of his or her life. My first point, it's right to a dignified life. This argument assumes that personal dignity in certain circumstances will be below what could be demanded in order to live, which will allow the euthanasia to be applied. Okay, now it's the first point of my friend Arath. Please, Arath.
Thank you, Miguel. This is my argument. The euthanasia enables a person to die with dignity and in control of their situation. Let me explain this argument. Unfortunately, in this world there are diseases and conditions that not allow the people to have a dignified life. And in these cases, it's considered an agony to life. The situation violates the free development of the personality and his dignity as a human person, where the only solution, as cruel as sounds, is death.
Thank you, Arath. It's turn to my partner Julius. Please, Julius, it's your turn.
Thank you. And the project is quite critical. It has naming procedures to certificate the free will and the medical conditions of ardents who requires determination of the third life in extreme situations or terminal illness irreversibly in jury. No doctors or clinics can be forced to reform euthanasia. No one can force a party of the family to list to hasten death. So it allows everyone to live and die. According to their convictions, parents and doctors who understand that a dignified death, the ones that come after making everything last ever from in the prologue life, can choose to do so, but choose would prefer to avoid weeks or months in extremity suffering. Believing that death in the tears circumstance is more dignified, that agony could shorten to passive wait.
Thank you, Julius. It's my turn. My second argument is right to the dignified death. If it dignified death, it's understood the immediate and definitive cessation of pain. The euthanasia becomes the easiest and most effective therapy. But if, on the contrary, death is assumed with greatness of spirit, facing it, exercising in it all our personal capacities, it constitutes the last step on the road to human fulfillment. The last step, if one does not possess the certain of those who, within the framework of Christian doctrine, see in death the threshold that leads them to the presence of God. Now is the turn of my partner Arath, please. Arath.
Okay, thank you, Miguel. This is my argument that death is a completely private matter, and there's no one who can interfere, not even people, his familiars, not even the state, not even the doctors, and not even the laws. Usually, when we talk about euthanasia, the family is taken in account. This should not be so because it knows their decision, much less their life, and theirs before they not have the right to disease, and to not even to interfere.
Thank you, Arath. Now it's the time of my partner Julius. Come on, Julius, please.
The debt will dignity bill. It's likely to have majority support. The, sorry, the speed, the confusion between abortion and euthanasia that has been created with board critics and some supporters of the bill. It is not true that, as the former says, the law is going to force doctors to become executions. On the contrary, allows them to follow the dictates of their conscience, which is precisely what the Catholic and Christian churches has for in the case of abortion. For for the mother who liked abortion, in euthanasia there is no dispute about the existence of another being that will be in danger. The only like that had escaped is that of an adult parent who freely express his will.
Thank you so much, Julius. It's time to my last argument. In this case, my argument is the autonomy of the sick. Those legislations that authorize euthanasia do so under the condition of ensuring the express and serious nature of the request on the part of the patient, as in the Spanish case. In this regard, Herrans states that a passionate and moving request for death can be made by a patient under the effects of chronic fatigue, tensious insomnia, overwhelming dyspnea, nausea, undiagnosed or poorly treated depression. An express and serious request for death may be the consequence of incompetent treatment of pain and other symptoms, or of affective neglect by relatives and caregivers. It may even be made by the patients as a psychological and traumatic device to focus the attention of others on him herself, or in relations for present neglect or past grievances. On the other hand, to meet the request of the patient who sees death as the best alternative is to forget that choosing death is not one option among many, but a way of suppressing all options. Arad, is your turn, please.
Okay, it's time for my last argument. This probably isn't the most moral argument, but it needs to be taken account. It's expensive to keep people alive when there is no cure for their illness. Euthanasia would only prolong their person's suffering, and there is both an emotional and economy problem. Euthanasia would relieve that monetary burden and free up precious resources to train people who could live.
Thank you, Arad. It's the moment of the last argument of my partner Julius, please.
Okay. The law of activities euthanasia will have indirect effects on the right that partners now have to request that their life not with artificially prolonged with invasive and costly treatment with of most searches a few more weeks of month of life candidate daily insulin juices aggressive tremors to keep the heart break baking. Sorry, every talk it is know that everything is being and the party just not want them.
Thank you, Julius. Is now the participants will have to answer the arguments in a round of 5 minutes per team. We start with the team in favor. Thank you.
Now the participants will have to answer the arguments in a round of 5 minutes per team, but they will have 5 minutes to prepare the answers. Okay?
Miguel, vas tú.
¿Qué?
Que-
No, ahorita 5 minutos.
Ahorita son los 5 minutos de los argumentos, padrino.
Por eso, pues.
No, o sea, pero los 5 minutos que dejamos para investigarlos, pues.
Ah, ok, ok.
Sale, ya sabes dónde recortarle, entonces, bye.
5 minutos sin decir nada ahorita.
Ah, tú,
Sí, pero
Iron,
también se
vuelve
tiene que
a
grabar.
decir la introducción, Iron, porque pues este güey ya dijo otra cosa.
Okay. Una, dos, tres. Now the dos, tres. Now the participants, okay. Now the participants will have to answer the arguments in row 5 minutes per team, but they will have 5 minutes to prepare their answers. Okay? Okay, the time is over. We will start with the answers of the team that is in favor. So please.
Thank you, Aaron. It's my turn first. Alex, in your third argument, you say that the terminally ill are not mentally healthy, since that can cause them depression. But if they no longer feel well, and as you say they are terminally ill, I don't think they will want to continue suffering. And it is not the same as suicide, since people who commit suicide do it for more sentimental situations, not like the six that it hurts them to be and deceive themselves like this, and if they believe that it is no longer worth it to continue making them their family pay for keeping them alive, I believe that they have every right to do so.
Okay, it's the turn of Julius to respond.
Hello, sorry. This is for Erasmo. Was very good. Your point of view has a very good way of expressions and respectively. But euthanasia could help allude to the next generations of terminally ill to avoid their suffering.
Yes, I think that's what euthanasia is for. But let's also think of the adolescents who are going to use euthanasia as an excuse, apart from everything that Mexico is suffering today. Well, it is more possible that people will be who would still have a way to live in peace and with purpose in life. This would not be possible if there is euthanasia.
Arad, please, it's your turn.
Okay, I'm going to debate the arguments of Iron. In his argument, several times comment that the euthanasia is a type of suicide, and then it generates a great emotional damage for the families. I'm so sorry, but I have to intervene here because I could not even be more against. Because it is true that a suicide is to take your own life by your own decision, but the euthanasia is consensual and regulated. Um, and how my classmate Miguel says, is more used for medical situation than emotional situation. He also comment about the moral dilemma. I think it's less moral to keep a person in suffering without a change of life or give him a possibility to end his life. How I say, in my opinion, the first one is the less moral, and it is an attempt against the dignity. Besides, why is this done with dogs? Because it's not a debate like in humans. For someone, it's moral wrong. In their case, there is not even a decision for the dog and he's not taken.
Okay, so now it's the turn of our team against to respond. So let's start with our time. Excuse me a minute. Okay. Okay, let's start, Alex. It's your turn.
Yes, thank you. I am going to refute the arguments of Miguel. Miguel, in your arguments, you mentioned and I quote that if by dignified death is meant that the immediate and definitive cessation of pain, then euthanasia becomes the easiest and most effective therapy. So, with that, you are affirming that the fact that another person is with the life of another person is an act of dignity. If a person is very sick, it's an act of great dignity to try to keep him alive instead of accelerating his death. Thank you.
Okay, now it's my turn. Arath, I remember that my colleague Arath mentioned that euthanasia allows a person to die with dignity and in control of their situation. Now, I guess, what if that person doesn't really want to die? And if that person doesn't, that person just want to stop suffering. This can be done with palliative care. I remember Arad also argued that euthanasia doesn't affect others and that it's costly to keep people alive when there's no cure for their disease. But what about the emotional damage that caused to the patient's relative? In the same way, this impacts in the ethics of the health professionals and in the social consideration of respect for human life. It's not about money, and if it were in centers like Eternal Spirit, the price of euthanasia is around $250,000 of pesos. So, okay, that's all from us. So, thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Hope you like it.